Hello everyone, welcome to the webinar. I am Brad Hakeman. I'm an application engineer here with GoEngineer. I am based out of the Sioux Falls, South Dakota office. And I have a Bachelor of Science degree in Manufacturing Engineering Technology from South Dakota State University. My background in CAD and drafting goes all the way back to two-dimensional hand drawings. We actually took 2 semesters of hand drawings before we even got to use a mouse and do 2D CAD and 3D modeling. A little bit of background on my work history. I started out doing as a drafter detailer for a custom wood door manufacturer. We designed the doors, the side lights, and even the custom ironwork for those doors. You can see there in that example. From there, I was a designer. That was a kind of a dual role, 3D modeling and document control, document management. The company I worked for designed GPS guidance systems for tractors, sprayers, ag equipment, and also application controls. So making sure you're not over or under applying your chemicals on your field. And I was also a plumbing design engineer for a custom fire truck manufacturer. My role was creating the designs for the pump panel layout for their operator, and also ordering and designing the plumbing discharge manifold. A little rundown of what we're going to discuss today. Looking at drawing templates, some of your parametric items and model items, getting into sheet format, getting comfortable with understanding how the sheet format can be edited and how we can use that for multiple sheets, and then we'll get into some table topics and design library items. You're looking at the split bomb for large assemblies and also weldment cut list items. So as I mentioned, first off, looking at the drawing templates. And in this example here, we're going to be creating this drawing using the techniques I'm going to go over, but you'll see I have, it's 4 standard views. There's some dimensioning and notes, and the title block has been filled out with some information. So to start off, I'm opening up the A size 4 view. This is a drawing template that I created using what's called predefined views. You'll see I have 4 empty views here, but they aren't necessarily empty. They are set up to be a specific view of the model. So this is the front, top, and if you look at my isometric view, it's already set up, shaded with edges visible. So we'll go ahead and cancel that. And if you want to create these that you see here, it's under the insert options, insert drawing view, predefined. And to start adding a model to it, I'm going to select that front view, insert model, select my item, and so this is the part that I had open, and now I can start moving the items around. So this is a great time saver because you're not going back and forth to the view palette. I can already have my views populated how I want them. The main point too also is to be cognizant of how you're modeling when you're creating that model. What's going to be the front view of your drawing, top view and right, because if these came in upside down from what you intended, that could affect how your drawing will look. So kind of to show you how that would look and how we would change that, I want to go ahead and I'm going to reorient this to show you what this would look like if it was upside down or in a different orientation than from what the drawing is looking for. You press the spacebar to do the view orientation and update standard views. Now what this is doing is asking you, what do you want this view to be? It's already the front view. Next step is, what should this view be? So I'm changing this to the bottom view, and now if I switch to my top front view, you can see it reorients in that other direction. So if an example of how this would look in the drawing, I switch back and you can see it's reoriented in different perspective. So it's not quite how I wanted it. So again, that's if the model came in the wrong way, how that would look. In order to fix that, I'm coming back here and my reset standard views. So that's bringing everything back to the original orientation, how I wanted it. But to save time, like I said, when you're creating your model from the start, be aware of how you're your model is going to be oriented in your drawing. Sorry, arrange the parts here. Okay, now next step of course would be adding your dimensions, and that Smart Dimension tool is a great tool for adding them manually. You can select two entities. The software understands you're looking at a linear dimension or an angular dimension, but what if I wanted to reuse the items used to create the sketches, and that's where model items come in. So this, like it says, it's pulling everything from your 3D model. So go ahead and click on that, and you'll see I have different options. I can select what view I want to bring them in, what selected feature, and so this one I'm going to do the entire model. Click on that import items into all views, and here are different options for those entities I want to bring in. This is called marked for drawing. That can be every dimension on your drawing. You can edit that on the part file when you're creating the dimensions to actually turn that off if you want a dimension to not be shown in this model items. Not marked for drawing makes sure that all of your items are shown. And there's some other options here for patterns, and if you have your whole wizard items, you can have the location dimensions called out on here, or your whole wizard callouts. So, you know, counter bore, counter sunk, your blind depth, all that information would be shown on there. So everything's set up how I want it. I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And now I have all my dimensions. So I'm going to want to go ahead and rearrange these a little bit. And of course, you can do the manual method of drag and drop each one, but if I were to window select all of them, I can go here to auto arrange dimensions, and it's going to try to arrange them out further so they're a little bit easier to read. But I'm going to go ahead and move some of them to where I want them. But you know, it's like I said, it's a time saver to give you that option to have everything arranged out in that pattern. So I'll go ahead and make some changes here. This 5mm diameter, maybe I want this on the right view, so this is a left control key mouse drag to bring it over, and it just copies it over. And this one I can just delete. You know, it's not linked back to the part other than the value, so I can delete it however I want. Okay, so I think it's a great time saver versus selecting entities as you go. Let's see, so the next step, you know, in another drawing we had notes. You can do, of course, bring in your note entity and type out each note, but say you're using parts over and over, you're creating parts, but you have notes that you're reusing. These are common notes that you're using for each part. Maybe this is a machine shop that makes the same parts, similar parts, but you have the same notes that you're always going to use. A simple drag and drop, you can save these into the design library. One of the things you might be able to see is that the machine from stock material, that part number is a property linked back to the part file. So when you drag and drop that into the drawing, it's referencing the custom property of the part. You can see here the machine finished weight is blank, so I'm going to have to add that to the part. If you go ahead and I can double click on that, so click where I want that. I'll go ahead to this item here, link to property, and that'll be referenced to the part. Instead of current document, I want the model in the drawing. So my selection's there, and I'm going to change that to weight, and you can see that auto populates in my notes. And other items in the drawing, you can see the title, the drawing number, material and finish. All of that's being brought over from the part file. Some organizations have the drawing number as the file name, just how their standards are set up. In this example, we have the drawing number is a custom property of the part file. So the other option, other examples here. So we'll go back. I'll show you how those custom properties are generated. There are two ways that two areas those properties are found. You go to File, Properties, and here is the stock material that I mentioned earlier in my notes. And then also here is the custom property tab builder. This is a form that we created that you can fill out on the side of the file here. This is the custom property tab builder. You'll notice, well, right now I only have part and drawing templates, but the file extension determines what type it is, if it's a part file template or a drawings file template. So just an example there, if you can't find the template you're working with, check the file type. So I'll go ahead and open up that part file, and you can see these are all text boxes. I can change the description of them. I can change what attribute is being shown. This example here, I like. This is the material. This is actually linked to the property material over here on the left, so that when you edit the material on the right here, you're not, the material is updating correctly, so you don't end up with the drawing saying that it's made out of brass, but the material is actually copper. So it's make sure the weight and the material properties are correct. The weight I added on there just as an example, just give you that graphical quick representation to show you the number, and so you're not having to go back and forth to check the weight using the mass properties tool. It's built into the custom properties. If you have, if you want your drawing to say if it's a purchase part, if it's made in-house, you can do a checkbox. You can do a list group if it's a purchase part. Maybe it's if you have a list of preferred vendors. If you're a machine shop, maybe you have a certain machine you want it made on, you can have a list that way. You have that all built into the custom property tab on the right, and then that populates on your drawing. On the drawing side, sorry about that. This seems to be muted here. This checkbox that I have set up is for my sign-off information. So the fields here will populate in the drawing title block. So this could be the drafter signing off, sends out for approval, the manager, the engineer signs off on it, you get manufacturing to sign off, and then maybe first part check with QA would sign off on it. And it saves you time. You're not editing the sheet to sheet title block to fill that out. Okay, so that was working with drawing templates. We brought in the different drawing views, the model items, and then using the design library to store those common notes that you can reuse, and how to link the custom properties from the part file into your drawing and into the title block. Next, we'll talk a little bit about sheet format and how we can edit that and how we can use that. When I say sheet format, there's a difference between a drawing template. There's your drawing template and the sheet format. The drawing template contains the sheet format, but that format file has your title block, the border, any notes you have embedded. If you have a company logo on your drawings, you can have that embedded there. The custom properties that I showed earlier, and anchor points. If you're not familiar with anchor points, those are very useful in bringing in your bill of material, your revision block, revision table, so that you don't have to place them and align them. You can just click and add them, and the title block, or they're added to the title block. An organization I worked before when I was in document control, we had a second sheet format. The drawing standard was that the first page had all the information that was required, but then second, third, and so on pages only needed the logo and the drawing number and a description and pretty much everything in the lower right hand corner of the quadrant of the drawing. So here I have my drawing that we created earlier, and I want to create a new title block. I'm going to create a new drawing for my second sheet. So as I mentioned, I got the title block here. I'm going to go ahead and do File New. I want to create a new drawing using my A-size landscape drawing. So I have this, and I'm going to go ahead and right click and edit sheet format, and everything in the drawing sheet format is just standard sketch entities. So I can go ahead and trim this and go ahead and delete anything that I don't want in the sheet. So I just want everything that from the company logo down, and then go ahead and close this. Now instead of saving this as a drawing template, I'm going to save it as a sheet, just save the sheet format file, and save sheet format, and go ahead and save that as an A2 landscape. Then go ahead and close this, go ahead and switch over to my original drawing, and click on this button here to add my second sheet, and it populates with my second sheet that I wanted. Now what I didn't show you until now is that how this is an option in the drawing, in the document properties. So tools, options, document properties, under drawing sheets is this checkbox here for using a different sheet. If this checkbox is cleared and you hit next sheet, it's just going to reuse the sheet format from the first page. So I had that set up in my document properties of this drawing template ahead of time. You'll notice here the sheet number auto-populates, sheet 2 of 2, 3 of 3. The numbers in that are driven by the properties of the file. So just giving you an example here, I'm going to create a note that'll mimic that sheet 3 of 3. This is just in case that this doesn't come through. So I'll type in sheet, go to link to property, and under my documents, change the property name to current sheet. Go ahead and click OK. And you can see it already fills in the number. And then the other one is total sheets. So go click on that, and under total sheets you'll see that, and click OK. So this is just in case maybe that line of text is deleted, or if you open your drawing and for some reason it's not filling in. Those are the custom properties that's using. Okay, so that's what I have for sheet formats. The drawing templates that come from SOLIDWORKS are very useful to get you started, but if you want to manipulate them to get them closer to what you had before, maybe if you have a different standard you want to use, or if you want to update them, that was when I was in Doc Control, that was also one of the things we did, was we completely revamped our drawing title blocks. So I'm very familiar with working with the sheet formatting. Next we'll look into table topics and design library. A couple items we have for one is the split bomb and the other is the weldment cut list. And you'll see here I have a fairly large assembly on the screen. Go ahead and look at the model tree here. So a lot of components. Go ahead and open the drawing. I have my item balloons, notes, title block, but if I switch to sheet 2, you'll see the bill of material is larger than the sheet. You could maybe do some scaling, set up a D-size vertical, portrait template, some ways to try to make this work in your drawing. But this was a fairly new feature in the last few years with SOLIDWORKS, was the ability to split that bill of material and have it stay in the correct numbering. So there's different options: the horizontal auto split, horizontal above and below, and vertically. The horizontal above and below is just in reference to what row you've selected. That vertically right actually splits the column that you've selected. So if I were to do that, it would split my item number off. This auto split maintains a certain number of rows you want. So in this case I have 79 items. I just throwing in a number of 38, and you can see it splits that equally with some left over, so that it sets at a maximum and then a remainder. And these bill of materials, I can drag them and they will snap together. So go ahead and drag and drop that third one into view. So again, this is also a second sheet format, so I'm able to use a little bit more real estate on the print. And you'll see here my item numbers line up. So it maintains your item numbers, and the balloons are going to be correct as well. Okay, go ahead and click OK, and then if I go back, so what happens if you add or delete items? What happens to the bill of material at that point? So in this example, I'm just going to go ahead and delete these just for an example. Now I'll switch back to the drawing, and you'll see there the bill of material has updated. Okay, so that's working with the bill of material, the split bomb. And now for weldments, a couple of items we can look at. One, you have your cut list on the drawing, shows you your cut lengths for each individual item. But what if you wanted to sum those up? You want to see your total for the 1x2 or the total of 1x4 rough cut. You could do add a column and do some equations to add everything up. But in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a column to the right. So do insert column right, and I'm going to use the cut list item property total length. And go ahead and click OK. And what you see here, it's the total length for every 1 inch by 2 inch tube. So it's populating that in every cell, and you're getting that also in the 1x4. So there is a difference between the length and total length, but it's showing that value for each row, as you can see. If we go back, I'm going to show you where that's found in the part file if that's not visible when you add that to the table. So you right click on your cut list item, and under properties you'll see that total length list there. If that's not shown, you can add that. You should be able to add that to the column, to the list as well. So you can see here it's total length versus the length value. So you have both of those shown. So now I'll go back to the drawing, and this is back to the design library. So I had a machined part note. Maybe I'll have a weldment note with some common items that we want, and also the weld symbols. The library from SOLIDWORKS, you can create every weld symbol available, but it takes a little bit of time as you're creating these. Maybe you're working at a place that only does a handful of welds. You're not using every single weld, plug welds. So the time it's taking me now to fill out that type of weld. So go ahead and add that to my drawing. What if there was an easier, faster way to use these welds? So again, that was using the weld symbol generator. But if you look at my design library over here, I have a few I have a fillet weld already created. So think of my weld symbol when I was creating it versus what I'm about to do here. So click and drag, it's already there, it's already formatted. I can add as many as I want. It's direct from my design library. And if you look at my library, there are a few other welds already in there. Blend, weld, fillet, plug, bevel. So if you've created a weld that's not in your library, or a symbol or a note that's already it's not in your library, this can be added fairly simply after you've created it. Show that here. So I'll go ahead and click on my weld, this weld symbol. And so if I want to add that, I'm going to add it to library, and then I need to give it a name and a location, and go ahead and click OK. And you'll see it's been added to my design library on the right. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe and leave a comment below if you have a specific topic you'd like us to cover in a future video. Visit our website, GoEngineer.com, for access to professional training, upcoming events, and more from your #1 online technical resource. Again, this is Brad Hakeman. Bye for now.